All right, if you've been up to date on the tech world, you may have been hearing the same disturbing rumors that everyone else has been hearing recently about Apple. They could possibly be removing the fingerprint scanner from the next iPhone. What? Is that possible? I thought it was the most ridiculous thing. There was no way it was possible, but you look at all the stuff that's coming out, it might actually be something they're considering or doing, even though it is the dumbest thing they could possibly do. So this is gonna be a little bit of a rant. You know, we're gonna get a bit emotional here and explain why, yes, it's possible that they could do this, and why, oh my God, why anyone who thinks it's a good idea at Apple should just like be fired immediately. All right, what do we know? Why do we think this is something that's gonna happen? Well, all right, so there's been plenty of rumors. People have been coming out who've been like, oh, they're reliable Apple leakers, and they're like, oh, Apple's gonna remove the TouchID, which is the fingerprint sensor. And it's like, all right, yeah, right. Why would they do that, okay? But then we started to get even more leaks that kind of corroborate with that, like the case models. It shows how big the screen is probably gonna be. And right now, we're pretty certain that the screen is gonna be like the previous phones earlier this year, where it's gonna cover basically all of the front of the phone. So we know that's probably gonna happen, which means that, well, they have to put the home button under the screen, all right? So that means they have two options, well, really three options. They can put the fingerprint sensor along with the home button under the screen. They can put the fingerprint sensor somewhere else on the phone, like the back, not under the screen, or they can take out the fingerprint sensor altogether. You would think, okay, obviously, why wouldn't they just put it on the screen? And the answer is that maybe they can't. It might not be physically possible. Obviously they would want to, but they might not have the technology to do that, especially if they're gonna use an OLED screen. Maybe there's a special challenge in there. So if you look at it that way, yeah, they might have to take out the fingerprint sensor if they wanna have that type of screen. So at this point, it's like, all right, well, if they can't get the fingerprint sensor under the screen and they're not willing to add another button on the back, oh my gosh, then yeah, it's completely possible that they would remove it altogether. Now, if it was any other company, I would have said, you know what, yes, this is so stupid, they would never do it, there's no chance, but with Apple, you never know. You really don't. They've removed the headphone jack, the most universal. It's lasted 100 years. There's no reason to improve it. And they're like, yeah, we're just gonna get rid of it. And they didn't even really add anything because of it. It didn't really get any benefit out of it. And now you're saying, well, why would they wouldn't remove the fingerprint sensor? And it's like, well, it's Apple. They might actually be that stupid. But all right, we've established that it's possible they might stoop to that level, but what would they replace it with? They would obviously have to go up and say that there's something better, right? What could possibly be better and easier than just a fingerprint? Well, the word on the street again is that they're gonna be using some sort of facial recognition. So we know that the Samsung Galaxy S8 had it. It failed miserably, even though like it's so secure, and then obviously it's not, because there has not been a single company that has been able to achieve secure facial recognition at all. None of them. Even like Windows Hello, you hold up a picture and it thinks it's correct. Oh yeah, welcome in. Okay, the Galaxy S8, another, just to hold up a photo. So Apple's gonna come along and magically be able to do it? I don't think so. Now, they might be able to get better at it. It's been almost a year probably since Samsung has started working on it or whatever, so maybe they had a year in advance, but I still don't think it's gonna ever be as secure as a fingerprint sensor, because here's the thing. So with a fingerprint, no one really has the technology to copy a fingerprint unless you really, really want to, right? Unless you're like a government agency, you specifically go out and buy a tool to get someone's fingerprint, and then you have to go and like get them to put the fingerprint on the ink or whatever, and then you would have to somehow transfer it onto a capacitive material that would be used on the phone, right? It's ridiculous. No reasonable person would do that. But with a facial recognition, it's not exactly that difficult to get a picture of someone's face. all right? And then it's not that reasonable to think that maybe if they hold up the picture enough to the phone, eventually it would think that it's the actual person. Like, all right, even if it has depth sensing, you could say, oh, well, maybe if you curve the picture, who knows, maybe that's even enough to trick it. We don't know. This technology is all brand new, and like I said, it's never been successful. And I guarantee you, if Apple goes out and says, oh, we're replacing it with something better, we're replacing it with this facial recognition. And you know what? TouchID was so bad, they're gonna be like gaslighting everyone. They're gonna be like making up stuff about the past that wasn't true. Oh, TouchID was, you know, it was just unreliable. It was slow, you know. Remember how slow TouchID is? Yeah, it is slow, right? You're right. But no, we have this facial recognition now, which is, oh, it's better than everything, guys. That's gonna be the stuff they're gonna have to say, because TouchID is so ridiculously popular and convenient, and it works so well that why would they ever remove it? Can you imagine if they go out there and try to pitch this idea that they're replacing it with facial recognition, where it's not gonna be as convenient, first of all. So imagine with a fingerprint sensor, you know, the phone could be like lying on the table, you know, you could be laying in bed, you can be holding it up at a weird angle and press the fingerprint sensor against your thumb and it'll open. With this, you would have to be holding the camera at a specific angle, looking at your face. You'd have to have it straight on. You couldn't do it if it's down on the table. You couldn't do any of that. It would be less convenient. Secondly, I kind of just touched on this, but for security, the only way to make it even remotely as convenient as TouchID would be to reduce the security of the facial recognition. Because if you want to do facial recognition right with the depth sensing cameras, you would have to have that person hold up the camera to their face and really give it some time to analyze what it's looking at. Look at how maybe the face moves, the head moves. Is that even a human head that it's looking at? It needs time. It's not gonna be able to do that in a millisecond and say, oh, yep, that's a human head, because it might not be if it doesn't move naturally. So they're gonna have to reduce the security to like a snapshot, which could be tricked if they want it to be as fast as TouchID, where it's just a single image. It's way easier for the computer to figure it out. Also, here's another thing to consider. With facial recognition, your face doesn't always look the same. Maybe you're wearing glasses, maybe you're wearing sunglasses, maybe you're wearing makeup if you're a woman, maybe you're wearing a heavy coat or something like that. That facial recognition software has to account for all that, and what does that mean? Less security. It has to say, oh, well, you know, it looks enough like him. Yeah, oh, he's probably just wearing glasses or something like that. It has to give it some leeway for it to work even reasonably well, whereas a fingerprint doesn't change. So it doesn't have to account for all that. It's either yes, it matches, or no, it doesn't. With facial recognition, it's gonna have to do some calculations to figure it out, which means that it's gonna be able to be defeated if people figure out, okay, this is the weakest part of it. If you put something blocking the eyes of this picture, it'll be more likely to let you in because it thinks you're just wearing sunglasses, and that's the reason it's different. So there's no way that this facial recognition is gonna be even remotely as secure as TouchID. I think I've made my point that it's incredibly stupid if they even do this. I'm still not 100% sure, obviously, if they do, but what would be the reaction by the public? Like, what would actually happen? I think that actually it would be pretty darn negative, okay? I think that the headphone jack was one thing, because it's like, all right, yeah, I mean, it's super convenient, everything supports the headphone jack, but even me personally, I don't know the last time I really used the headphone jack on my phone, but I still want it, right? So people are like, you know what, all right, I guess I don't actually use it that often, and there's the dongle, you can still use it, right? But with this, people use TouchID every single time they use the phone. Like, everybody uses it. If they take it away, that is, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. If they try to even spin that as positive, I think they're gonna get a huge backlash. I would love to see how they spin this. So, yeah, I just can't see how they're gonna do it. I don't see why they would do this, but all the rumors are suggesting that they might actually do it. But would it actually affect sales? And yeah, I think it actually would. I mean, that is like a major feature. And yeah, people are like, oh, I want the latest iPhone. Oh, I don't care if it doesn't have this. But it's like, well, I use the fingerprint thing. Well, I want the fingerprint thing, you know? We thought that would go with the headphone jack. This is like times 10. And especially because imagine you do pre-order this new iPhone, you know it doesn't have a fingerprint sensor, and then in that time frame between when you're using it, every single time you use the fingerprint sensor on your current iPhone, you're like, next one's not gonna have it, next one's not gonna have it. You're gonna be reminded every single time that you're gonna have to get used to not using it, and I think that's gonna piss a lot of people off. They're gonna realize pretty quickly, wow, this sucks. So yeah, I think the point is clear. I'm sure you guys all agree with me. If you don't, what? Come on, you're just lying at this point. But I don't know what Apple's gonna do. None of us do. If they do this and do remove it, I think that would be, that would be a huge misstep, and it would really reveal some bizarre workings in Apple. Like the fact that they would do such a stupid thing and remove such a popular, incredibly useful feature and replace it with something so obviously and provably inferior that they would say, oh, this is much better, guys, believe me, it's okay that we removed it, and then there's no way that within days they wouldn't be proved wrong. And I know I've said it a million times, so I'm gonna just wrap it up. We'll have to see. There's no way to speculate beyond that, but again, the rumors kind of point to it. You can let me know what you guys think down in the comment section if you think it's actually possible that they would do this. Would you get a new iPhone if they removed this Touch ID? Like if you bought every iPhone and then you didn't get this one because of that, let us know. But yeah, enough of that. If you guys want to keep watching, I'll put some other videos right here. You can just click on those. And if you want to subscribe, I make new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. They're usually not rants, but I do them every once in a while if I'm so inspired. So anyway, thanks again for watching, guys. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.